Well, welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Nam Pham of Pacific Private Money. Mark Hanf is off today. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during the show. That certificate is not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. That certificate's worth over $100, so you'll want to listen to the trivia. And today's trivia theme is miscellaneous trivia. So, Nam, let's get right into it. You've got some good articles to share.
Yeah, have some good articles. Hello, Edward. I think it's been a while since we've done the show, right?
Yeah, had Patty on last week, and
yeah. I miss doing the show with Patty. Tell her I said hi. Hey, Patty, if you're watching, hello.
Yeah.
But anyway, no. So let's jump right into it. So, gosh, when last time we were, and you know what, I always talk about real estate whenever we're real estate sales, residential real estate. That's just the kind of side of the business that I really love and like to follow. So, once again, I'm going to talk about real estate, residential real estate. And so we're in August now. And, for the last, since this time last year, I think real estate sales activity had been the highlight, and how we're just seeing a lot of transactions happening, a lot of purchases and refis because of low interest rates. But so every time I'm on the show, I kind of talk about it, and for the last 11 months or so, it's been just a continued rise. A few points where we're seeing softening, but we're starting to see articles and actually just seeing listing signs in Novato in my neighborhood where where homes are sitting a little bit longer, it felt like, anecdotally.
Okay.
But this article in Manus today by Lillian Dickerson says single-family housing starts to take unexpected hit in July. So despite a decline in starts, which reflected curbed confidence in June amid mellowing lumber prices, experts said gains made in permit applications were a positive sign. So housing starts. New construction, new builds, took, as this article states, an unexpected hit. So the article goes on to say, after modest gains made in June, new single-family housing starts took a sharp hit in July, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Single-family starts in July were down 4.5% from June, but they're still up 11.7% over July of 2020. Privately owned housing starts were at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 1.5 million, down 7% from the revised June 2021 numbers, but up 2.5% year over year.
Well, I wonder how much of this I'm not sure how much of this has to do with lumber prices, in the supply chain, because now things are going to be getting back to normal, apparently. Things were 3 and 4 times the price for lumber, but now it seems like it's getting streamlined again. Do you think those numbers are affected by that at all?
Yeah, well, it does go on to say that new permits jumped up. So housing starts, the actual construction, beginning of construction was down, but permits were up. Okay. So I think you'll probably see, and then another article talks about lumber prices falling 71%.
Yeah.
So better deal, await do-it-yourselfers, and I'll jump into that a little bit. But I think you're right. I think that in June, I don't think we saw, or maybe it was late June, but certainly in July we started seeing lumber prices dropping down to like 2018 levels, because they were insane.
They were
for a while.
But then also you've got people, theoretically, kids going back to school pretty soon. And so that's going to be changing, the whole dynamic of buying houses.
Exactly. And, my comment about homes in Novato in my neighborhood sitting on the market, listed homes, I mean, that's different from housing starts.
Yes.
But it does, but real estate in general, we're seeing articles about sort of flattening and home prices flattening a bit. But, that's also seasonality, because summertime for us has historically not been, it's been great, but it hasn't been the strongest quarters or months compared to other years. So I think once we get past the beginning of school and housing starts, picking, or permits resulting in housing starts, I think you're going to see probably not the same frenzy going into the fall that we saw that we've seen over the last year.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it's all relative. Overall, our activity in general is just, breaking records
I think
over prior years.
there's still a lot of buyer fatigue too.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
get outbid by 15 other bids, and they just say, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to wait for the prices to drop, if they even are.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think that buyer fatigue, if prices level out, you'll probably see interest picking back up.
Yeah. Right.
Housing activity.
We're going to continue on in the next segment with some real estate talk. So here's our first trivia question. The lumbar spine consists of how many vertebrae? Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer is going to win that tanning certificate. And want to make a mention here for join the Napa River History Tour on a beautiful 2-hour kayak tour as they explore Napa's most revealing and provocative secrets. Perfect for all fitness levels and experience. They include the kayaks, life jackets, and paddles. Check them out at napariverhistorytour.com. Again, our trivia question for the tanning certificate is, the lumbar spine consists of how many vertebrae? All right, 888-912-1190. Stay with us. The Best of Investing will be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Nam Phan of Pacific Private Money. First trivia question was, the lumbar spine consists of how many vertebrae?
32.
No, it's only 5.
The lumbar spine.
Lumbar spine. Yeah. Not the whole spine. I'm wondering all. Did I get that question wrong?
What do I know?
It's just the lumbar.
I have 32 lumbar spines, so everyone else is deficient.
They're deficient. It's like you got a lot of chromosomes. So no, just kidding. Hey, want to make a quick mention here too. Also for Palio Restaurant, it's been the premier Italian restaurant serving downtown San Francisco since 1990, and it's no surprise it's been voted best Italian restaurant in the SF Weekly this year. Palio has consistently been voted one of the best restaurants in San Francisco by San Francisco locals. Check them out. PalioSF.com. That's PALIOSF.com. All right.
Ooh, sounds good. I'm going to have to try that.
Oh, they're very good food. And they put a lot of money in redecorating. And I was there, I guess, a little over a month ago. The food was phenomenal. And I'm not even that big an Italian food person, but it was really good.
Huh.
Yeah. Right on Sacramento Street. Okay. Nam, you want to continue on with what you were talking about?
Yeah. So in the last segment, we were talking about lumber prices. We were talking about housing starts and permits. So there is one caveat to the lumber prices going down. The benefit obviously is the reduced cost of construction costs overall, having lumber prices drop, and also for do-it-yourselfers, if you wait a little while longer for the wholesale savings to fully pass on to retail, meaning back to Home Depot or Lowe's or any lumber stores, then you can start seeing some of the lower lumber prices. I was doing some projects over the summer, and it was insane how much it cost for redwood. 4x4 redwood was just incredible. Yep. But the downside is, just because the lumber prices are down right now, it doesn't mean that we're out of the woods yet, so to speak. The bad wildfire season currently raging in the U.S., Pacific Northwest and British Columbia could cause sawmills to halt. And not to mention the U.S. South, home to southern yellow pine, is about to enter hurricane season. So that can have an impact on supply, and so that mix, could result in lumber prices maybe not actually being much lower than anticipated. But anyway, these things are wait and see. I mean, there's some pretty crazy fires going on right now in California, and it's really sad to see that. Yeah. Hopefully, we don't have any more fires, but those things can impact the lumber prices. And so,
did you see the small fire that happened on Mount Tam No,
I got a Nixle report, which is the text alert that the Marin Sheriff's Department sends out. But
I was in my backyard, and we happened to be looking out at Mount Tam, and we saw a little bit of smoke and then a little bit more smoke, and then it was quickly put out. So they did a really good job because that's kind of hard area to get to.
Yeah, and did they put it out with planes or just ground crew?
No, I think they put it out with the planes. I think
Really?
so. And
Okay.
out with only an acre burned, which is good because if that mountain goes, that's gonna be a big matzo ball for the rest of us.
Yeah, you know, I just it really makes you nervous thinking about the potential for all of that. But you know, on a side note, you know, you were saying that the planes they probably sent planes over. You know, at some point I have to imagine that they're going to have drone technology where they can deploy drones. They can be so much more precise and run 24 hours a day.
Yeah, you'd have to definitely make them super powerful though, because that's the retardant or water or whatever they want to use. That's gotta weigh a lot.
Yeah, but you know they can have smaller quantities and more drones.
Yeah.
That they can be. I think I have to imagine that they're thinking about that and having because they can, you know, they can be really precise, right? Yeah. They can program them to be, you know, over a spot, and they can run 24/7. They don't need daylight to do it. So I don't know. That would be interesting to see if that comes about. So, but anyway, going back. So lumber prices, you know, a lot going on in things to consider with construction. We're still seeing, you know, strong demand in the construction space, and certainly on just general residential sales. You know, this continues to be brisk in spite of a little bit of a slowdown. So,
what kind of rates are you charging borrowers nowadays?
Yeah, good question. So there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of competition for quality loans, and so borrowers a year ago were probably, you know, getting in the low 8s or being charged in the low 8s. Now I'd say they're in the high 7s, mid 7s for some of the, you know, bridge loans in particular. Keep in mind though that the average bridge loan borrower for us of late has been, you know, the FICO scores have been north of 700. So these are really qualified people who have high net worth. Our average bridge loan has, you know, crept up to well over 1.1 million or so.
Well, economies of scale, you can lower the rate a little bit.
Mm-hmm. You know, less risk. I mean, these loans are paying off in some cases in 45 days.
Yeah. So. Well, yeah. What I meant with the economies of scale is you have to do the same amount of paperwork for $1 million as a $200,000.
Yeah.
So you might as well.
Yeah.
I totally get it out there. Tell you what, we got a quick email question here. It says, do your loans have any prepayment penalties?
You know what, that's a good question. So what is a prepayment penalty? I'm sure most of the listeners have a pretty good idea, but essentially it means like an early payoff fee or penalty. Meaning if you get a loan for X number of months or years and you pay it off sooner, do you incur some sort of fee because it's sooner than the lender wanted?
Yeah.
And depending on the type of loan, it could be yes, there is a prepayment. We actually call it a minimum interest guarantee. So instead of a penalty, there's we'll tell the borrower, we'll make this loan to you, but there's going to be a minimum interest guarantee of 4 months or 5 months or 6 months. Generally, those are going to be for what we call business purpose loans, where it's somebody who's flipping a property and they say they're going to need it for 12 months. Well, we might put in a 4-month or 5-month minimum interest guarantee. And, I know you have to cut to another segment, so I'll finish answering the question when we get back.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right. Mm-hmm. Farmers of which fruit sometimes pay helicopter pilots over $1,000 per hour to dry crops? Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer is going to win that tanning certificate. I'll read it again. Farmers of which kind of fruit sometimes pay helicopter pilots over $1,000 per hour to dry the crops? Kind of interesting question. All right.
To dry them?
To dry them, yeah. Stay with us. The Best of Investing. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing one more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Nam Phan of Pacific Private Money. Our second trivia question: farmers of which fruit sometimes pay helicopter pilots over $1,000 per hour to dry the crops?
I'm going to say grapes.
No, cherries. Yeah, I would have thought that grapes too, because
No
when you
way.
get Napa, cherries, and the reason is because if they're exposed to excessive rain, cherries will swell and split, which renders them useless.
Wow.
Interesting, huh?
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess are they really useless though, or are they just not appealing to people in the supermarkets?
Good,
Um,
good question. Yeah, good question. I don't know. Maybe if they split too early, then they don't get ripe, and then they get rotten. I don't know
yeah.
the answer to that.
Wow.
That'll be our next trivia
Interesting.
question. Okay. So Nom, please continue on with the answer about prepayment penalties.
Yeah. So the question was, do we charge a prepayment penalty? And in the last segment, we were talking about, well, it depends on the type of loan. So at Pacific Private Money, we make several types of loans, but you can sort of categorize them generally into two. The first one being consumer or owner-occupied loans, which have certain regulations that we have to follow, and the other are non-owner, non-consumer loans or business purpose. And I was talking about minimum interest guarantee being charged for loans that are on the business purpose side. So again, like somebody who's flipping a property they acquire, if they tell us they need it for 12 months, but that oftentimes these loans don't go for the full term, or maybe it's 24 months. And so what we'll do is, it's not called a prepayment penalty in this circumstance, but essentially it acts sort of in the same way, where we'd say, listen, it is for 12 months, but we want a minimum interest guarantee of 4 or 5 or 6.
So if the person pays off in 2 months, they still owe basically 5 or 6 months worth of interest. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay.
And on the consumer side, for owner-occupied, it's against regulation to charge a prepayment penalty.
Okay.
So there is you can't enforce a prepayment penalty. For instance, like the bridge loans, we were talking about how borrowers are really high-quality borrowers right now getting our bridge loans, and I was mentioning that sometimes they pay off in as little as 45 days. Those loans generally are written for 11 months. But we can't charge any sort of prepayment penalty or minimum interest guarantee.
Okay.
And so therefore, if a borrower pays off early, and I think the earliest we were paid off on a bridge loan was within 10 days,
Okay.
actually, of getting our loan. And you would say, wow, how did that happen? Well, oftentimes borrowers come to us for a bridge loan. They weren't planning to get a bridge loan. They were in the middle of a purchase to buy a house and had a conventional loan in place. And then all of a sudden, the lender on the conventional loan says, you know what, we need an extra week or 2 weeks to fund this loan. In the meantime, that borrower is under contract to close within a certain time frame. And when that lender says, we need an extra 10 days, 2 weeks, what have you, all of a sudden that borrower is in jeopardy of losing out on that purchase, because the seller says, you know what, you agreed to close by this date. If you're telling us you can't, then we can cancel the contract.
Okay.
So you've got, and oftentimes these borrowers find out 5-7 days, before they're going to before the loan, escrow is supposed to close.
Yeah.
And they're in a bind suddenly, and so they come to Pacific Private Money because we can transact very quickly. Mark Hanf likes to call it transactional distress. It's not borrowers who have low credit that always come to us. It's borrowers who are just in a transaction that suddenly is under.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read an article not too long ago, actually, I think yesterday, of how appraisers are so busy, and there's all these various new regulations and requirements for appraisers, that a lot of the appraisers are older now. Young ones coming in are, there's really not that much of an incentive because of the either internship or apprentice or, schooling, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. It used to be a little easier to become an appraiser. Now it's become harder. And then there's all kinds of liability potential that they have. and they can only make so much money doing it because it's also kind of getting regulated. So you're dwindling your supply of appraisers, and they may end up having to change the rules, like desktop appraisals, or who knows if they'll be able to use third party, that sort of thing. But be that as it may, what effectively it does, it slows the process down for the banks.
It does, and what we're seeing are scenarios where people come to us on purchases, not necessarily for the bridge loan, because we can do those without appraisals if we're comfortable with the desktop valuation that we do. And also in this real estate market, of course we lend only up to a certain amount, like 75%, for instance, the loan to value.
Mm-hmm.
But we have borrowers coming to us who are purchasing property, multifamily, or other, where the appraisal's taking way longer than anyone has time for, meaning if they don't complete the purchase, then they lose out on the opportunity. So if the loan to value is low enough, we'll take a chance and we'll have the appraisal be a trailing document. Not that we want to do that, but if we feel comfortable enough that, listen, this is only a 50% loan to value property, appraisal is not going to come in 25% off in this case, or whatever that is, we'll go ahead and complete the loan.
Yeah, because you guys have, you're lending primarily in California, so you know the areas fairly well that you're lending in, and it's not going to be too crazy. You can use other third-party facts to back up, especially if it's a bona fide purchase. Theoretically, willing buyer, willing seller will determine market value.
Yeah, but it's actually we are lending more out of state because we have buyers for these, and we're using the Freedom Fund to fund some of the loans that we're then selling, and these are out of state loans.
Okay.
But you're right. In California, on a single family residential purchase or refi, we've got all the markets, most of them, the major metros, pretty wired. So we're comfortable lending here without an appraisal. In other markets, and our end loan buyers, they need appraisals. So
and you have licenses through other states? So you hooked up?
Yeah. Some states, depending on the type of transaction or loan you're making, you don't need to have a license if it's to an entity versus to a consumer.
Very good. Wealth of knowledge there, my friend. All right.
Yeah.
Third trivia question. The bone patella is also known as what? What's another name for patella? Okay. In your body, the bone. That's what we're talking about. All right. Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer is going to win that tanning certificate. The bone patella is also known as what? What's the common name for that? All right. Stay with us. With the best investing returns, Nam will talk about deal of the week. Welcome back to the best of investing. Edward Brown and Nam Fauner here. Okay, third trivia question. The bone patella is also known as what?
The kneecap, right?
The kneecap. Very good. All right. Well, again, 1 out of 3. That'll get you in the Hall of Fame in baseball. But for the best of investing, we want to see at least 2 out of 3. All right, Nam, give us a deal of the week. Give us a little background about Pacific Private Money, how you work, and why you're able to charge what you charge.
So Pacific Private Money, we are in the alternative lending space. We're lenders, mortgage brokers, lenders. We originate loans, and prior to really the last year or this year, we've been largely lending in California. Although in the last year, or in the last 6 months or so, 7 months, we've had opportunities to do loans in other states, different types of loans, so more multifamily, some construction, rehab, but essentially at the end of the day, we're lenders. We make loans to individuals, largely on residential real estate, although, as I mentioned, we do some multifamily. And so people come to us when they need a loan, generally when a bank can't accommodate them. So we're plan B, essentially, when bank financing, plan A, the big banks aren't able to lend to people. And it's for a lot of different reasons, which we try to cover on the shows, one of them being speed and convenience. It's not for rate because we charge more than conventional lenders. but oftentimes speed and convenience just outweighs the cost, especially when you consider how short of a hold a lot of these borrowers keep our loans. So this week, we're working on a loan where it's a $2.9 million loan against a $7.5 million property in Napa.
Wow.
38% loan to value. And essentially the borrower is coming to us because, speed. They have an opportunity. They already actually live in this property, but they want to, they acquired a property and they're building a 4,100 square foot home with 810 square foot ADU. They just jumped on an opportunity to acquire a property that they can build on. And in this case, what stands out a little bit about it is, we're not verifying income of the borrowers to qualify for this loan. This is essentially a rehab scenario where there's so much protective equity in this property, or the property is worth so much. This borrower has a track record, and ultimately we have a loan buyer for it already that's not so much concerned about the income of the borrower or their qualifications, although that track record, they look at their experience, and they see that this borrower has done multiple projects like this and the price point's right. And so people oftentimes think, well, if somebody doesn't have the income, why would you make a loan? If you don't look at their income, aren't you worried about their ability to
make the monthly payments?
Make the payments? And in this case, no, because we look at all of these other circumstances that really make the income piece of it kind of not a relevant metric. We look at their past experience, their overall net worth, and we look specifically at the project plans that they have for this property. And we look and say, is this a reasonable project at a reasonable price? Are their cost estimates accurate? Their budget accurate for a project like this?
Are you lending a little bit more so they have a cushion to be able to make the monthly payments, or how's that working?
Yeah, I don't know if the cushion is built in, or if we're so much concerned about adding a cushion so they can make the monthly payments versus just the amount of funds they need for materials and labor, et cetera, for this. Actually, a good question. But in this case, Matt Cordes is our loan agent on this. He is, has one of the sharpest, eyes and minds for construction lending. And I'd say not only in California, but he really has a good eyes and just to ask the right questions.
And this fund, it's the North Star fund that's going to be doing this loan, right?
Actually, I don't know if it's the North Star fund that's going to do this loan because it's on the lower end of the rate spectrum.
Oh, and also technically it's not a construction loan because you're lending against the equity in the current resident.
Yeah, and this one, just because of the rate, it's going to be around 8%. That doesn't fit the fund per se. So this is probably one that we're going to sell and not hold in our portfolio.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that. You did say you were going to be selling it.
Yeah, so the Freedom Fund would fund this loan and then sell it off.
Well, let's talk about the fund because the audience listening in hears about these opportunities and it's like, well, great, you as a company are making all this money, but I'm listening to the show. How do I make money listening to the show?
Yeah.
So what's the opportunity for investors?
Yeah, so investors who want to participate in real estate have multiple ways of doing it. You can be an owner of real estate. And, for instance, be a landlord where you acquire a rental property and a property that you're going to rent out to tenants, or you can be on the debt side where you're lending the money, investing the money that is then used, we use to lend to borrowers who may be somebody acquiring property to be a landlord or to acquire properties to live in. So we act, our two clients are the borrowers and the investors. So for investors, the appeal is that you invest with us. We may lend the money out to borrowers at 7 or 8%, and in the case of the Freedom Fund, you can earn 6%, and it's a fixed 6%. And the appeal specifically with the Freedom Fund is that it's highly liquid, meaning we use the funds to make loans to borrowers on properties and loans that we plan to turn over and sell pretty quickly. So like this Napa or Sonoma example, in return you earn 6%. If you then need to have access to those funds, generally we can redeem you within 2 weeks. Lately it's been anywhere from a week to 2 weeks for redemptions. So that's the appeal. You have 6% on funds that you can get back quickly, and you're comparing that against keeping it in the bank, earning whatever the interest rates are on in a savings or checking account, or other vehicles that may pay less, but high liquidity, flat 6%. It's become very attractive for investors, and we're seeing a lot of people who are getting paid off on trust deeds that they're investing in, where they're the direct lender, and parking it in the Freedom Fund until the next trust deed opportunity comes up. And I can tell you, trust deed opportunities these days are really competitive. Partly because banks are coming to us, Pacific Private Money, and saying, hey, I'd like to buy your loans. Well, when they come to us and say, I want to buy your loans and I'm willing to accept, 6% rate of return or 5%, it's really hard to say no to that, because obviously we make money off the spread. So, people are turning to us for investing in the Freedom Fund in this case.
For more information, how do people get a hold of you?
They can give us a call at 415-883-2150, or they can go to our website, which is www.pacificprivatemoney.com, and they can download information about our various funds and actually watch some older fund videos that we have. And maybe in the next segment, we'll try and pin a date on the next fund event.
Very good. All right, stay with us. The Best of Investing will be back with some closing thoughts and comments. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Nam Phan of Pacific Private Money. Nam, do you have any events coming up?
I closed the last segment saying maybe we'll talk about events, the next event, and actually we don't.
We don't.
Big switch. No, we will. We need to have something like late September. What I don't know is whether or not we can do a live event. I would love to just get back out there. And I guess what will determine that is actually if the hotels will allow us to hold an event in their venue. We were doing events at the Marriott and at Embassy Suites. Actually, we'll place a call in with them. And they may say, you can hold an event, but all of the attendees have to have a vaccination card or show, that they're COVID free in the last X number of days. We need to do a little bit of research, but I'd say if they're okay with it and, people are following the mandates that the hotels have in place, I don't see why we wouldn't want to do something live. So more to come on that. I would love to get back out there.
Usually you used to offer food, so I wonder if you could even do that.
I know. So, the events that we actually, we're going to an event this week in Las Vegas. And the last one I went to, all of the hot food that they had, like hot plate food, was all packaged in little plastic containers. And talk about recycling taboo there.
Yeah.
Like little hot dog on a stick or whatever, or little cubes. They were all in little plastic containers.
I know, it's funny. It's like last time we were able to fly first class, and it was during COVID, and they gave us water and a cookie, and that was it's like, hey, this is first class, come on. I think it's just a way for them to get away with doing things cheap. I do appreciate the fact that many of the airlines have not invoked a change fee, and in fact, I gotta say, even United Airlines, when we had to cancel a flight, it took me a while, but I actually was able to get them to refund it, not just give me credit.
You know what? Yeah, that Delta, I think it was Delta and Southwest both did that for me. So that was nice. Yeah, but I ended up using them. So again, and I don't know. I'm going tomorrow to an event, and we'll see what happens if the events slated for September and October happen.
Now, are you going to Vegas?
I'm going tomorrow, just
Oh, you
for a
are?
day.
Oh, just
Yeah.
just for the day. Oh,
I know, it's brutal. It's
long,
brutal.
well, it's not that long a flight, but enough to just. So Mark went there by himself, and
Yeah.
okay,
Yep. Yeah, and then I'll see him tomorrow, and then he comes back Friday, but I come back tomorrow.
gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Give out, if you would, give out your information one more time, so in case people want
Yeah.
to get a hold of you for either, for either of the funds, because you have
Yep.
different funds that pay different interest rates.
Yep. So give us a call at 415-883-2150, or you can reach us at www.pacificprivatemoney.com. You can learn about our 4 funds. So we have the Pacific Freedom Fund, which we talked about. We have of course, our legacy fund, the Pacific Private Money Fund, and then we have the Pacific Southwest Note Fund and the North Star Capital Fund. So all unique in respect to the types of loans and projects that we're doing, and or just the general makeup. You have to be accredited to invest in any of them, and different minimum investment amounts.
Okay.
But again, 415-883-2150 or www.pacificprivatemoney.com.
All right. It's always been a pleasure. Here's our thoughts for the day. Did you hear about the man injured in a bizarre peekaboo accident? He's in ICU.
That's fantastic.
And I accidentally fell asleep smoking an e-cigarette. When I woke up, my whole house was on the internet. I know, that's pretty bad. I don't.
You made that one up.
No, I wish I did. No, I wish I didn't. I didn't, actually. I'm okay with that. All right, audience, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.